Hello my friends and welcome, my name is Dennis and this is the latest update from Ukraine. Lots of the news for today. The first news that Ukrainian drone boats went to the Sevastopol Bay as Russian side reports, targeting one of the speedboats of the Russian army. The Ukrainian intelligence published this video on their channel and definitely this small boat was caputed. Well, to be honest, we have two of the sources stating different information. One source says that Ukraine went to this bay on the northern part of Crimea, but Russians themselves say that drones went all through the bay, the harbor of Sevastopol, the most secured area in Crimea. So Russians put some of the floating devices. They even established the military dolphins to track the drones, plus aviation. We're gonna see the operation of the Russian aviation in this video as well. So the drones went inside and they were searching for some fat target, but couldn't reach it. That is why our drones targeted just a small boat, the military one. Yeah, on this video we have some of the buildings, but for me it was hard to identify the location of it. So I'll be waiting for the confirmation from the other military bloggers, but I think that those big buildings are located in Sevastopol. We'll see it for sure in the future. And Russia publishes this video. There you may see a Ukrainian drone boat and the Russian K-29 helicopter, which is chasing the drone boat, and later on drone boat was exploded by a machine gun fire from the helicopter. Those helicopters are mainly used for the surveillance missions, and they're also submarine finders. They have very sensitive and powerful radar on the nose. At least some of the modifications of K-27 and K-29, basically more or less it's the same helicopter. Sorry for the lots of the watermarks. We have this video from the Russian channels and they publish the video filmed by the helicopter crew themselves, how they shoot the drone from the skies. They continue to chase the boat, but it's really hard to aim it because of some of the waves and because our guys maneuver that drone. Our drone operators do this job. However, the drone was stopped and later on was finished. However, we see a very interesting detail mounted on the drone boat. It is some sort of the missile which drone could potentially use, but didn't do it during the last attack attempt. And here we have more detailed picture. As for me, this missile looks like air-to-air missile R-73, and Russia confirms that it looks really similar. So we can see this missile again and it looks very same. It means that potentially with the new modification of the Magura drone boat, Ukraine might target the Russian aviation. Why it wasn't done in this case? Well, because helicopter was within the short range out from the drone. So the chances for the missile to hit it was very low. The machine gun should be installed for this purpose, but it's really hard to control it lifetime. Because as we know, for the drone signal operation, there is a 3-second delay. It's pretty much okay to control the drone to point it somewhere, but to aim the potentially installed machine gun, no, it's not possible. I watched this video judging on many of the lights. I think that finally it is a Sevastopol Bay. Well, more or less, if we take the situation in general, if Ukraine made it to the Sevastopol harbor and after all targeting a small Russian boat, overall, it is the success more for Ukraine than the loss of this operation. The result, I think, is positive, even though Ukraine lost few of the drone boats. The second biggest news of the day is that Russia announced a nuclear exercise using the tactical nuclear weaponry, not a strategic one, long range, no. But they will use the small aviation bombs for this purpose, probably with the actual nuclear warheads. So they will move them from their warehouses, they're gonna mount them on their airplanes, they're gonna check this logistics. Well, I don't think that they're gonna use those aviation bombs to target Ukraine, but this is one more step of escalation by the Russian Federation. It is some sort of their response on the strategic uncertainty policy which President of France Macron previously declared against Russia. Putin doesn't like it. He's screaming in his hysteria that I will nuke you, I can do it, I'll launch the drills. Moreover, the Russian Foreign Ministry started escalation in diplomatic way. Moscow called British and French ambassadors to visit their headquarters of the Foreign Ministry. There was just a short talk with British ambassador and French. They left the building with no any comments. I shared this information, by the way, today on my Telegram channel. So to be updated on the current events in Ukraine, please follow my Telegram. You may find it in the video description just below, because those were the top news for today. And here's the French ambassador again, no any comments, nothing on this issue. However, later on we have received the official statement from the Russian side. A Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov says that they're gonna strike any sort of the British targets in Ukraine or outside Ukraine if the British weaponry is going to be used on the Russian territory. For example, Storm Shadow. We had the official report about it from David Cameron, who is a British foreign minister. I even filmed a video for you about that case, saying that Britain gives a green light for Ukraine to use its weaponry against Russia on its territory. What is interesting that Ukraine used already Storm Shadow cruise missiles to attack, like Russia says, their sovereign territory. We're speaking about bases in Crimea, the headquarters of the Russian Black Sea Navy. Also, many of the Russian ships were targeted again with Storm Shadow cruise missiles, and one of the submarines too. So by the time it was okay for Russia, it wasn't even a big deal to put those cases in the Russian news. But now they're frustrated. What is happening? Why Russia divides its territory? Because according to their so-called constitution, the Ukrainian occupied territory is already Russians, but they treat it differently themselves. That is why they understand that they are occupiers and it's the part of their colony, with no real sovereign right that Russia may apply to those regions, which they previously annexed, including, by the way, Crimea. But then Britain says that we give the green light for Ukraine to use our weaponry on the Russian territory. Oh, they're so scared, they're so mad. Well, maybe it is some sort of the solar activity which influences the minds, if they have those, of the Russian officials. Because they continue their statements, for example, about F-16s. They're saying that if those airplanes are delivered to Ukraine, they're gonna treat them as a possible carrier of the nuclear weapons, regardless on their modification. Again, the statement comes from Lavrov, the Russian Foreign Ministry. Well, hopefully our allies will not go into this blackmail trap that Putin creates today. However, France started to behave differently compared to its previous rhetorics about the strategic uncertainty. For example, Macron today said that we are not in war with Russia or with the Russian people. We have no desire to change the regime in Moscow. Moreover, France will send its ambassador for tomorrow's inauguration of Vladimir Putin, so official representative from the Western ally of Ukraine, with its presence will legitimize Vladimir Putin in his power. Plus, the Department of State of the United States of America said that they recognized Vladimir Putin as a Russian president, even though today Ukraine said that they do not recognize Vladimir Putin as a Russian leader because the elections were fake. Indeed, they were, but our allies recognize Vladimir Putin as a Russian president, as you see. Well, I think that you may agree with me that Putin still has a major support of the Russian population. Yes, not 90% or 87.5% as he wrote, but still the majority of the population, they're brainwashed by the Russian propaganda, they're chauvinists, so they are supporting Putin. Plus the war that he started in Ukraine. Adequate Russians are mostly leaving or already left Russia. The opposition which stayed in Russia is mostly dead, imprisoned, or restricted in their rights. My friends, just a short message for you. Recently I got the age restriction on one of my videos. This is the usual thing for my channel, so monetization restriction plus the age restriction. Still had quite a big number of views before it happened. So thank you so much by watching my videos, by clicking your likes on them, by commenting. I try to read your comments, but I'm alone and you are alone. So I'm physically unable to read all of those messages. But anyways, my friends, thank you so much for your kind support of my channel. And if you want to support my daily job, you may join my Patreon page. It is available in the video description just below. Because of those restrictions, I rely on your support. Thank you so much for your kind support. The Chinese leader Xi visits France today. There was a meeting between him, Macron, and Ursula von der Leyen. They've discussed many of the issues, but I think also the war in Ukraine, which Russia started. And I don't see the progress in this meeting yet. Chinese leader plays or sings his own song. Europe shouldn't escalate, blah blah blah. Just stop supporting Russia and Russia wouldn't be able to attack Ukraine on Ukrainian territory. I'm sure that without the Chinese support, Russia is incapable for the attack missions. They receive surveillance and the FPV drones from China and other very important technology that Russia is unable to produce. And China intensifies those supplies. Why? Because maybe the war is good for China. For them, Russia is not really a close friend, as they openly say. It's just the resource for their economy: wood, oil, gas, and everything. The Chinese Communist Party is just using Russia in their interests. And for China, it's also profitable that West is concentrated in Ukraine, wasting their resources on Ukrainian militaries. So China potentially might use their forces to encircle Taiwan, for example, trying to establish the blockade of the island. Well, those are the prospects, but China likes it. So after the meeting, I do not see the signs of de-escalation. Everyone just follows its policy, and the policy of China is to support Russia. Alright, some of the interesting news. Russia continued to lose their airplanes. Now it's been reported officially that Ukraine was able to down Russian Sukhoi-34. Yes, one more for a very long time, but Ukraine managed to strike it down or shut it down with the air defense systems. I wonder what kind of the systems were used, because previously it was the Patriot system which was delivered closer to the front lines. However, later on Russia used Iskanders to ambush the Patriot launches. Unfortunately, by that time, 9 personnel members lost their lives. But here we have some of the sad statements from the Russian military bloggers. They share some of the black and white photos saying that Zhenya and Volodya are died. They were one of the most effective combat flying crew. Zhenya and Volodya, have a nice flight to hell. Yeah, I do hate Russian pilots because they're bombing Ukrainian cities, civilian buildings, and causing lots of the life loss among civilians too. Alright, now let's review the situation on the front lines. For today, there was just a minor movement of the Russian army. The only place where they were capable to advance is Novopokrovsk. So let's go to the timeline. It was yesterday, it is today. Just the part of the field was captured by the Russian army. That's it. So we see the signs that the Russian major offensive slowed down gradually. Well, at least for a couple of days yesterday and today, we see just a light movement of their forces. The interesting information also comes from the Chasiv Yar. It's the Bakhmut sector, Bakhmut area. According to the latest information, Ukraine blown up the bridge which connects the western side of the city with the small eastern one. But there are actually 3 of the bridges, 1, 2, and 3 across the Seversky Donetsk channel. Well, I was able to find this screenshot published in the internet, and I think that it's the main entrance to the city. As you also can see, this is the great obstacle. I mean, the channel itself, it goes down. For the Russian tanks, it's not the easy job to cross it, so Russians should come out with idea of how to make a new bridge, but they're constantly under Ukrainian fire. Well, if the bridge is gone, I'm sure that Ukraine is out of the heavy equipment on the eastern part of the city, but the infantry forces could be still over there. I think that Ukraine got rid of this part. Yeah, I was able to find the video, so definitely a truck is burning. The bridge is severely damaged. Probably Russia tried to restore it using the engineering forces, but they were attacked by Ukrainian FPVs. In the other directions of the front lines, there were no big news. However, we know that Russia is using surveillance drones in the Sumy region. Today, one of the surveillance drones was shot down near the border. Also, Ukrainian officials continue to say that Russia concentrated around 50,000 soldiers in this place, which is not enough to go to Kharkiv. However, they may intervene into the Kharkiv or Sumy Oblast. I'm monitoring the situation. We're gonna see how it develops in the future. The same report we have from the Institute for the Study of War. They also say about 50,000 soldiers. The Russian soldiers are delivered in Kursk at first, and from that region they are going with their own means to Belgorodskaya Oblast, closer to Kharkiv. The Institute for the Study of War experts say that the main goal for the Russian army to disperse the Ukrainian army all along the front line, to cause Ukraine to send massive forces to the Kharkivskaya Oblast and the major strike, but with 50,000 soldiers, Russia is incapable to occupy Kharkiv. That's why I think that probably Russia will continue to strike the eastern side of Ukraine. They might try to advance to Pokrovsk, and the Kharkiv offensive should be used mainly to deflect attention of Ukrainian army. Alright, Russia shares the information that Denis Lapin, the son of the Colonel Alexander Lapin, who was the commander of the major group of the Russian forces, lost his life after the HIMARS attack on the Russian headquarters that happened just 3 days ago, on 3rd of May at about 4 a.m. as a result of the enemy missile strike from the HIMARS MLRS. On the command post, Colonel Denis Alexandrovich Lapin received injuries incompatible with the life and died heroically while carrying out the assigned combat mission. Probably he was just sleeping. Yeah, obviously Alexander Lapin himself would be much better target for Ukraine, but in this case Russia also lost one of their commanders. Not the ordinary commander, but kind of the important one. And we have the confirmation about Yuri Galushka case, who served in the Russian army, but probably messed up with the Russian commanders or with his unit. So what he did, he shot everyone around, also during the night time, and escaped to Russia. Now Russian police is searching him in Belgrade, Kursk and Rostov regions. So finally we have the official confirmation about the case from the Russian side, because before the story sounded quite unreal, but actually it happened, yes, the sabotage within the Russian army by ethnical Ukrainian who has the Russian passport and who was in the Russian prison, so he is the ex-Russian prisoner. A Spanish defense minister confirmed that Ukraine has received a new bunch of the Patriot missiles. Those are damn expensive missiles. Without the military support, Ukraine just cannot allow to purchase those missiles, as well as some of our European allies. So we're happy that finally the military support was approved by the United States, because I think that the funds for those are coming from the United States. The Ukrainian General Commander Sisky says that Russia has the plans to move to Pokrovsk and Kurahovo, so they have two of the major assault vectors, one from Ocheretine and one from Marinka. Yeah, we actually see on the map that it is really happening, but whether Russia has enough forces and resources for this mission, I'm not sure. Oh, sorry guys, it's in Russian, but I can translate it for you. Ukrainian forces are preparing the massive strike on the Russian territory from 6 a.m. on 7th of May, so we have to wait for 4 hours. According to the Russian source, they're waiting for the attack of at least 50 of the drones, plus many of the other weaponry. It could be a biggest attack performed by Ukraine. I think that they say it like that because tomorrow is the inauguration of Vladimir Putin. Well, we'll see how it goes for him. You probably know that Russians in general hate West, it's because of their propaganda, but actually they admire West and their technologies. Russians want to have what is made in West. Well, here in this case it is made in China, but nevertheless those are the Western-made technologies. We're speaking about iPhone, the new unique iPhone which was presented in Russia for the anniversary of the Great Patriotic Victory. So we have this box with a simple screen which shows the history of the Great Patriotic Russian War, about that stuff, and what's inside the box itself is the Russian, no, not the Russian, but the Russian style iPhone 15 Pro Max for victory, Zapobedu, with everything that Russia likes. Oh my god. The price of this iPhone and the box is around 5,700 United States dollars if we check out today's Russian ruble course, which is 500,000 Russian rubles, a little bit more than that. This Russian fetish comes from the Soviet Union. Then people mostly also hated Western countries, hated the United States, but were dreaming about getting jeans or VHS players or the movies or music from the West. And today iPhones, well, you can still buy iPhones in Russia, but they're very restricted. I mean, you cannot even use the Apple Pay on those. Guys, as for the combat images, we have some of them published in internet today. I'll share everything of that on my Telegram channel. What I can tell you here that Ukraine is concentrated on cutting the Russian supplies, Russian Ural trucks, for example, as happened here, using the FPV drones. And now, my friends, don't forget to press your huge like to this video. By doing so, you help me a lot. As usual, I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are and have a great time.